Hello everyone, thanks for coming outside with me today. Today I want to talk about saddle comfort, finding the right comfort zones for you and how they can change throughout the hunt. A lot of people are starting to put a lot more time into their saddles, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, maybe even an all-day sit, and they're starting to find that they're not as comfortable when they only do that 2 to 3 hour sit in the morning or evening in the early season. So I want to strap the Predator platform on here using my tethered Phantom saddle. I want to get up the tree and talk about some of the ways that you can alleviate your pressure points and be able to stand on stand a little bit longer and score that buck of a lifetime. Let's first talk comfort with the platform. So I'm using the tethered Predator platform, which in my opinion is the best platform style on the market with its ability to cam over and all of the area that it has onto it. I've done a special spray paint job on mine, and so it's kind of got that Gore Optifade look to it. I'm really very pleased with the Predator platform. Did a lot of great sits out of it this year and the end of last. When it comes to your platform, as I get this ready to go, when it comes to your platform in terms of the comfort, the size does matter a little bit. Probably the smallest platform available right now is the Scout Solo from Out on a Limb, which is just a little bit for the kind of the front half of your foot to go, and it comes at that given pitched angle. You do want a little bit of downward pitch. You'll find that a little bit of downward pitch will alleviate a lot of ankle pain, a lot of ankle stress. You won't have to stand as much on the edge of your platform. You can actually stand closer on the front. My buddy Nate from the Budget Sportsman does a great video. I'll link that below. He has his platform really far down, almost as far as this adjustment bolt will let it go. Mine's maybe at somewhere in the flavor of 5 degrees downward angle. That works well for me and my height. If you can with your platform, all the Predators are able to do this, both the Predator and the Predator XL. I'm not sure if the Mission platform can do it or not, but I can tell you if you're able to get a little bit of downward angle onto your platform, that'll really help with your ankle stress and allow you to stand and lean more away from the tree for a lot longer time. Oh man, the tree that I last had this sucker on was a little bit bigger than this one. So after you figure out your platform and the angle there, the best thing you want to do then is figuring out the tree that you're actually specifically going to sit in, how you like the angle of a tree. So if you're able to get out and practice like this, it's a really good idea. Pick a straight tree, pick a leaning tree, and see how you like to stand on your platform. Do you want to be on the leaning side of the tree? So let's say this tree was leaning towards me. Do I want to be on this side, or do I want to be on the high side of the tree, the side of the tree that's on the higher end of the lean? I would strongly recommend that you stay on the low side, or the direction that the tree is leaning. And I'll get set up here in a moment, but remember, gravity is not going to help you. So if you're able to stay with gravity and let gravity be your friend on this side of the tree, you can push around to either the strong side or the weak side of the tree and let gravity bring you back. If you start on the high side of the tree and you come around to the strong or the weak side and gravity pulls you down this way, it will not let go and you will have a much harder time getting back to the high side of the tree. I strongly recommend you stay on the low side. That's for climbing as well as for when you're actually on the saddle platform. So I'm gonna go ahead and step up onto the platform. So we're gonna pretend that I'm currently using my lineman's belt here, and it's wrapped around the tree, and I'm using that away. I'm only 6 inches off the ground here, so I'm simply going to take my tether, which you notice I've put about forehead to the bridge of my nose height. We'll talk about tether height here in a second. I first wanna talk about when you first get set up here on stand. So when I'm using my saddle and I'm walking through the woods, this is riding very high. Look, notice the distance here from my Ropeman 1, you could use a Prusik knot, same deal, to the actual girth hitch around the tree. The saddle is up very high on my body. It's where I was wearing it when I was ascending the tree as well as walking through the woods. And if I was to go lean onto this, my girth hitch is gonna sink in here, so it's gonna lower a little bit. It's very high up. It's only about the top half of my backside. So when I actually get up here, I will reset my saddle. So before I lean all of my weight into the bridge like this and into my tether, I will leave my lineman's belt on, and I will actually go in here and I will loosen up just slightly my waist belt. Then I will pull this down to cover more of my backside. Then I will retighten. If I was to walk in like this, it would be very uncomfortable. The saddle would be flopping against the backside of my thighs, very uncomfortable. Now it's significantly lower, and now I can lean in, and now I can feel that it has the right pressure points on my entire backside, not just the front, not just the back. Just dropped my phone out of my pocket. Hopefully that screen's not broken. Shh. All right, so now I have my first initial sit into my saddle. I have my weight distribution. Now I'm using the tethered Phantom, which I think is the best saddle out there because of its comfort channels. So the comfort channels on the Phantom, there's basically knobs or balls on the inside that are allowing you to change the pressure from the top band to the bottom band. This is the first step that I want to figure out. My tether is set in kind of a normal height area around that forehead. I don't want to play with this yet. I'm going to first play with the pressure points around my backside because that isn't going to change too much. I can have a little bit of wiggle room here, about 6 to 8 inches of where my forehead to chin, somewhere in that flavor, but that's not going to change as much of the pressure point down here. So I want to find my comfort channel that's right for me. This year I found the comfort channel for me is when I stand up on my platform here, I go into the top knot, and that puts more pressure on the top section, there it is, the top section of the saddle for me, and it alleviates some of the bottom pressure. Now this is going to vary from person to person. The bigger your backside, I'm guessing the more scoop and the more bottom pressure you're going to want to have. I don't have that big of a backside. Sorry for a little too much information there, but I don't, and so I like a little bit more top pressure, and it evens it out really well across my body. And everybody's a little bit different. If you have a saddle that doesn't do that, like a sit drag or something like that, you're going to have to try to maybe play with the angles as they come into whatever you're using for your bridge, or you might just have to find a good spot on your body like I did by adjusting the waistband. All right, so now that I'm here and I'm actually pretty comfortable, I'm actually really good right now. If I go into lean into the tree, it's about the leg angle I want. Let's talk about saddle comfort and the angles. So I, being a teacher and being a nerd, have taken the idea of saddle hunting into geometry. There are 2 angles you need to worry about when it comes to saddle hunting, and everybody's angle is a little bit different. But that is the angle here as the tether comes off of the girth hitch of the tree, and then also the angle of your knees when you're actually braced into the tree. Those are the 2 angles that you need to worry about. You don't want your angle to be super duper low where you're clear down in here, and you don't want your angle to be super duper high when you go to lean into the tree. So for example, let's start up here because this is the meat and potatoes of the system. Forehead height is a great place to start because when you lean away from the tree, it's going to be a little bit higher or maybe at your forehead if you started closer to your nose. If you get this really high up the tree, and I'm going to really loosen this up here and really put this up high on the tree, really high, I have now drastically decrease this angle, right? So the closer this angle gets, right, if you see my arm, right, this interior angle right here, the closer this gets to my chest, the greater this angle opens until you get to 90 degrees, right? Which if I was standing would be around my belly button. The further it gets up here, this angle gets more acute, it gets more fine, and that puts a lot of pressure on the back, the top band here, and I actually feel that. I already have it here set in the top comfort channel, and it's gone even tighter. I've lost all support out my backside. I feel like I'm slipping out of the bottom. So playing with your tether height is a really, really important thing. This is much too high. That angle is much too acute. I want it to be closer to here. I don't know what this angle actually is. I don't know, maybe it's close to 120, this top angle, so this would be maybe a 60-degree angle, something like that. I want this to be a lot shorter. Now that it's down here, that weight is back to being more evenly distributed between my bottom and top band of my saddle. Let's do the inverse. Let's make this super short, and I actually might have to shorten my bridge. So let's bring this like clear down into my sternum. Let's do like a really obviously too bad situation here. To shorten this up all the way to its finest point. Now my angle is really much more open compared to this really tight angle. Now this angle is almost close to like a 70, 80 degree angle. If you had to pick, like if you had to deal between a really high tether and a really low tether, I would take a low tether all day because it will at least allow you to lean. This is actually super comfortable because it evenly distributes the weight almost perfectly across your backside, whether you have comfort channels or not. So if you have a saddle that doesn't have comfort channels or anything that's allowing you to change the pressure as it rotates on your backside, I would strongly recommend running a low tether. So for me, when I was running a sit drag, I was finding that the lower I moved my tether and the shorter my bridge got, this Tether Phantom has the ability to adjust your bridge, the more comfortable I was. The only problem with a low tether though is sitting. Sitting, you want to fall out the bottom. You really feel like you're gonna fall out the bottom because this angle now doesn't change right. and your pressure doesn't change right across your backside. Now, because this is so tight, you're back up to this short angle issue and you're pulling on your backside. I feel like I want to fall out the bottom and I'm putting a lot of pressure into the tree. I don't want that. So if I'm in a situation where I can just kind of lean for a while and be really comfortable, this distributes the weight beautifully. It just doesn't work for sitting. So if I want to sit, I'm going to have to move my tether back up a little bit. Everybody's a little bit different, but this would be my experience. So that's why I kind of like that forehead height, that nose height, bridge of the nose height, because it's just kind of a good vanilla catch-all. And it allows me here to have that perfect here. And also when I'm here with my knee pads or some sort of pad on the tree, I still keep that even weight distribution. Nothing changes here. My backside feels exactly the same. Now you might find that throughout the hunt, if you're gonna sit for several hours at a time, that you wanna change this to change that pressure point. In particular, if you don't have a saddle with a comfort channel, might be a good idea to change that tether height, change this angle, right? Go to more acute to more obtuse, and you'll be able to have a little bit more comfort on stand. Staying up here with the tether and the bridge, let's talk about hip pinch. This is another big problem with saddle hunting. You're now sitting in a swing, right? And the wider you are, the wider the angles you want around your hips. One of the biggest problems people get is hot spots or pressure points on their hips or right above their backside up towards the small of their back. They'll really get a lot of hip pinch, a lot of pressure, it'll cut off circulation, it gets tingly, it's not fun. So the easiest way to rectify that is playing with your bridge angle, right? So think about this, right? Here's where your bridge comes into the carabiner, right? And the further you make, the longer you make your bridge, remember this is a triangle here, an isosceles triangle, the more open this angle gets, right? So you could have it so, your bridge goes clean up to the tree and then opens all the way up down to here. That would really open up that hip angle. The shorter your bridge, right, the tighter this angle, the more acute this angle gets around your hips. So I'm about a 37, 38 inch waist. I know it's a little bit on the larger side for a lot of you dudes that might be out there saddle hunting. I know there's a lot of you that are significantly bigger, but that doesn't matter. What it talks about here is your ability to adjust your bridge. So if I go ahead and try to loosen up this Prusik here, I could go with a really short bridge, kind of loosen down my attachment point here, go with a really short bridge. Let's make it even more tight. Right, so I just lost a good 12 inches of bridge there, and now I'm getting all of this hip pinch. It's like really uncomfortable because it's so short. My bridge is so short now, and it's right here in the bottom. I got really wide hips. I'm not that big of a dude in terms of the girth. I just have really wide hips, and that is all the hip pinch, and that is really uncomfortable. So for this Tether Phantom, I have this almost all the way out. I could leave about 2 inches here of tag. Let me shorten this back up here a little bit. And there we go, it opens up again. So the more this angle here, here's my left hip, here's my right hip. The more I open that up, the wider that angle gets, the less acute it gets, really opens it up, and I don't get that pressure point when I'm on stand. Now, does that change when you go from standing to sitting and so on and so forth? Maybe, and maybe you wanna play around with your bridge all through the hunt. That's fine, because our bodies don't like complacency, right? When you've been sitting on the couch for forever and even it's super comfy, you're like, I gotta get up and move. The same thing's true with the saddle. You're super comfy, you're super relaxed, but your body's like, hey, let's change up positions a little bit. Changing your bridge length, it's super simple if you use something like the Phantom, which has an adjustable bridge. You can easily change that. Strongly recommend you give it a shot, and particularly if you're experiencing that lower back pain, the tingling, and the hip pinch. One more thing when it comes to up top here, let's talk about leaning and let's talk about sitting. So when it comes to leaning, obviously you can lean far out on the edge of your platform and be more upright, stand more upright, or you can lean really deep into your platform. You can put one knee up against the tree and you could really kind of relax. And again, you're changing this angle. Not a whole lot, but you're changing it a little bit while you're leaning. This can allow you to be a little bit more relaxed. I really like doing this short angle here and putting one foot on top of the post here, the platform, kind of do a one lean. I get a little bit of sway in here. It's nice and relaxed and allows me to alleviate all of my pressure off of my left leg, or inversely, I can shift and I can remove all of the pressure off of my right leg. It allows me just to allow a little bit more blood circulation to certain parts of my body, change up my pressure point, and allow me to go from this kind of full lean with both legs out here, knees locked or unlocked, to kind of a one pressure point or another pressure point. When it comes to sitting, you can do the same thing. You can lean with one knee against the tree, you can do the other knee against the tree. If you really want, you can try to do a side saddle, which I do this quite a lot actually. You can't really put your, I mean, you can put your full weight into the saddle, but you'll notice that you'll swing, right? You'll kind of follow a lot of the weight progression, and it really puts a lot of hip pitch on. So I still kind of lean with one foot on, something similar to this. And this is just, again, 15, 20 minutes. I'm not gonna sit there for an hour just to change up that pressure point a little bit. When it comes to kneeling though, this is where a lot of people kind of get stuck. People will go to kneel and they're like, oh my gosh, the hip pinch. You need to rotate. You need to rotate your hips. When you sit down in a chair, if you think about it, when you sit down in a chair, you lean your upper body one way or the other. Or if you sit back straight, you'll splay your legs apart or something along those lines. Your body's hip and backside adjust when you go to sit down. You don't sit perfectly straight. So when you go to sit perfectly straight in the tree, this isn't how you normally relax. This is not how you normally do things. So you're gonna have to rotate a little bit. For me, I usually find if I'm gonna look to my strong side, I have to rotate a little bit to my strong side. So I will pull the bridge through using my hips, and I'll add a little bit of rotation, lean more into the right knee than left knee, and all of the hip pinch is gone. I've now relaxed into the natural hip and backside rotation that my body usually has, and I'm able to focus. If I want to look towards my weak side, I just do a little bit of rotation, knees into the tree, and I now have alleviated all of the hip pinch to that side. I never sit here straight into the tree and try to look both ways. Your body doesn't want to do this. Your body wants to follow the natural progression of your spine and backside. That'll alleviate a lot of hot spots in your body, allow full blood circulation, and you'll be much more comfortable on stand. Now, if you are gonna go full sitting, another thing I would recommend, your tether height can stay the same, but I would change how far you lean away from the tree. So when I'm leaning into the tree, I don't mind being real tight. I'm standing pretty upright right here. This is very comfortable. I get a lot of leg movement. I can really allow blood to circulate without locking my legs. When I go to sit though, with a simple, easy adjustment, 6 inches or so, I can really bring my knees into the tree. Now, I like to, when I'm gonna go sit, I like my legs closer to 90 degrees perpendicular into the tree than most people. A lot of people prefer to be really up here, closer to like a 120. You know, remember, we're talking angles here. So this angle up here, and then the angle of your knees. So this angle comes down, your knee angle obviously comes up, right back up towards your hips. A lot of people like this to be a 120. I don't like that. I feel like I'm putting too much pressure and too much weight directly into my knees. If I move this down a little bit, that's a little too far. About 6 inches or so, maybe 8, that's still a little too far. Perfect. I feel like I get some pressure on my feet, some weight into my knees, and a lot of pressure here with that little bit of hip turn. I get a lot of pressure into the saddle. So I feel like I'm sitting in a swing, but instead of all of my weight being on my butt, I get some transferred into the tree on my knees, and I get some transferred onto the platform. Now I can lean in this position as well. I can stay back, but I feel like I'm really far away. I don't like being this far away from the tree. If you think of like being an ice skater, right, when they go to do the twirls and spins, the closer they bring their legs and arms to the body, the faster they move because gravity is able to take over and those forces. Same thing's true when it comes to your tree. Here, if I'm in tight, I can move a little bit easier. Everything becomes a little bit smoother and I don't have to move as far to get to the other side of the tree. Now, if you're a little bit shorter, I'm 6'4", I got a pretty good wingspan. This tree is a little bit smaller than a basketball. I can get around this tree very simply, both strong side and weak side if I go over the bridge. The further away I get from the tree, you'll notice that I can feel it. Like I can feel when I'm the right distance away. The further I get away from the tree, now I have to lean into the tree more then come all the way around. Now I have to lean in the tree more and come all the way around this way. The closer I get, the easier that maneuver comes, and I don't have as far of an angle away from the tree. That's more of a movement comfort thing as well as when you're actually sitting on stand. But if I know that I'm in a part of the morning, it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and it's starting to get more relaxed in the day, I'll move this further out, lean into the tree more, be closer to 90 degrees, maybe 100, 110 degrees at the most. Put my knees in the tree, alleviate that pressure, and I can play this game all day long. One simple hand movement with this ropeman. If you're using a Prusik, I recommend a tender, but one simple movement with this ropeman like this, and I can easily go from standing to sitting, and it took seconds. And I can alleviate that pressure exactly the way I need to and make everything more simple for me when I'm on stand. So I know that was a lot of information, but to recap, tether height, I would say, is probably the most important one. Don't make your angle too acute. Don't make it too obtuse. Get it right around that chin to forehead height. Although if you want it to be something either too acute or too obtuse, I would definitely recommend too obtuse. That'll allow you to at least lean, and particularly if you're doing a short sit or if you just like leaning in general, you don't like the sitting position, I would really recommend that you bring it down here. Really shorten up that bridge, shorten up your tether, and bring this really tight and close to your sternum, your solar plexus. That'll really allow you to lean, although sitting is not going to be as comfortable. The second thing is, of course, your bridge length. The closer it is, right? The longer it is, the more open this is, the shorter it gets, the tighter this angle gets around your hips. After your bridge comes your actual leaning distance, right? And that has to do with the angle of your knees. I like to be around 100 degrees in the tree, obviously coming up. This one's coming down. And that would put me at a better knee comfort. I can change by moving my hips, by actually rotating, changing that pressure point, and changing all of the blood circulation as I go throughout the day. My one foot can go on top of the post, the platform. I can kind of lock my knees straight. I can stand directly on the platform. I can stand directly on the edge and change my entire body angle. Whew, that's a lot of stuff. So anyway, sorry for the long rambly video, but I really hope this does help you, in particular when you get into these rut sits in the longer parts of the season. The leaves are really starting to come off the tree now. The last of the acorns are falling. The signs of rubs and scrapes are starting to pop up, and a lot of archery hunters are hitting the woods this fall. And I hope these tips and tricks can help you stay on stand a little bit longer and get that shot you're looking for. So that's all for this video. If you have any further questions about saddle comfort or playing with the angles and finding exactly the bright things that are good for you, follow the links in the description below. Hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, send me an email, and yes, you can always leave a comment here on YouTube. Hope you're able to get outside, enjoy the sport of archery hunting if you so choose. Definitely enjoy God's beautiful cooling down creation, and we'll get to see you next time.